Hey Summoners, and welcome back to another ProGuides Wild Rift video. My name is Nathaning, and today we'll be talking about the tier list for the Wild Rift champions on patch 1.1. If you're new to the game or just want to pick up the best champions, you've come to the right place. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Darius, one of the new champions this patch, has come into the Rift looking pretty good. His iconic ultimate Noxian Guillotine leads to countless resets and pentakills. Darius is a snowballing and team-fighting beast, often rampaging through entire teams and carrying fights on his own. His passive Hemorrhage makes any extended fights and trades in lane very scary for his opponents. He's powerful in the early game fights, but is susceptible to being poked down and not being able to get in range. Between Ghost and his boot active and Glorious Enchant, he can find some windows, but he can still be kited by champions like Ezreal and Seraphine. Overall, he's still pretty good, but until we know that he's definitely OP, Darius finds himself a home in the S tier. First up in the OPs for Baron lane is Dr. Mundo. He's looking pretty OP on Wild Rift and can chase down almost any champion with the slow from his cleavers and movement speed from his ultimate. His laning is very hard to punish because he can safely farm and poke from his range with cleavers and is always healing back to full with his passive. Mundo is no slouch in melee brawls and his insane damage from his E making short work of anybody who comes close. He wins basically every matchup and becomes an unkillable tanky beast in the late game who charges at your carries and then chops them down. Make sure to be picking Mundo whenever you can, especially if the enemy team has a lot of AP champions, since they often lack the consistent DPS to burn through your health regeneration. Next up is Camille. She's been slicing her way through Wild Rift and is definitely very OP. You can always get good trades in lane by trading whenever the passive is up and landing your W after you both walk away, making sure that you always come out on top of the health advantage. Camille has great synergy with Trinity Force and will always become an unstoppable force as soon as it is completed. She is a menace in the side lanes and will often be able to 1v2 as early as her first item. Camille is no slouch in teamfights either, and she will often take down the entire backlines on her own. Her strong dueling and teamfight assassination ability leaves her with few weaknesses, making her extremely overpowered. Here's the rest of our tier list for the Baron lane. But before we get into our jungle list, our question of the day is, what role do you think is going to be OP in Wild Rift? I've seen so many Amumu's carry games and I'm starting to think that jungle is just OP. Make sure to leave your answers in the comments down below. As previously mentioned, our first OP in the jungle is Amumu. He's a team-fighting powerhouse with a game-changing ultimate which can stun the entire enemy team. In the past, Amumu had poor dueling or mana-hungry Claire, but on the Wild Rift, neither of these are true. He's not the most powerful early game champion, but he's definitely not a pushover either, and can definitely contribute to the early game skirmishes. Fortunately, level 5 comes extremely quick on Wild Rift, and this is where Amumu really becomes king, getting access to Curse of the Sad Mummy. He's extremely tanky, pumps out decent damage, and can win any teamfight with his ultimate. Amumu is very well rounded and can handle any team that he faces on the Wild Rift with ease. Amumu is kind of like my spirit animal as he cries a lot, so we could put him in his own tier list. The other OP on our list is Lee Sin. He's basically the opposite of Amumu, with incredibly powerful early skirmishes and consistent outplay potential throughout the game, but less easy and accessible CC. Lee Sin clears fast and wins every fight that he takes early. Similar to Amumu, Lee Sin really turns on once he gets his ultimate Dragon's Rage. You can use this ability to burst down targets and set up your Q to kick a carry into your teammates. The possibilities with Lee's kits are endless and creative usage is vital to getting the most out of Lee. When played to his fullest potential, his kit can be an absolute game changer, but the raw power in his damage and dueling makes him a force to be reckoned with in any player's hands. Here's the rest of our tier list for the jungle. Everyone's favorite pop star Seraphine has found herself at the top of the tier list on Wild Rift. Between her Q poke and enhanced passive autos, her laning can be incredibly obnoxious and she only gets stronger when she links up with her allies. Her supportive capabilities are so strong and she pumps out damage and slows constantly. Her ultimate beat drop also sets up her own kit nicely, but best of all, it clumps up the enemy team for your allies to combo on top of, making her a very potent team fighter. She's strong throughout the entire game and has it all: damage, CC, laning, teamfighting, and buffs for her teammates. Her only weakness is to assassins, and that brings us to the other OP that we have for you today. Zed is excellent at killing any squishy champions wherever they hide on the Rift and making sure that they just don't get to play the game. Common theme throughout the list is that champions with powerful ultimates are strong because they get them so early, and that's also true for Zed. While he can farm safely using his Q, he really comes online with Deathmark. Zed's all-in with Ignite ultimate is crazy good and requires heavy outplay to not die to, but even if you don't die the first time, Zed can get his ultimate again shortly and then go for that one shot again. His access to backlines is unparalleled and dodging his shurikens on the Wild Rift is very hard, making his one-shot super reliable. No carry is safe from Zed, and his combo is pretty easy to execute. Here's the rest of the mid lane tier list. Draven, the other blood brother, is now new on the Wild Rift. He's an axe jungling micro-intensive laning king and can often blow open games with a small advantage in the lane. His damage is insane, and his burst from his axes and ultimate can often secure kills in a single CC during laning phase. Draven has potential to deal very high DPS, but often struggles to consistently juggle axes when the enemy divers are threatening him. He has movement speed on his W and self-peel on his E to keep himself alive, but champions like Zed and Camille will find it pretty easy to stick to him through these. He's pretty powerful if he can get ahead and run the game, but for the moment, bruisers are making him really hard to be successfully played. He's a solid A tier champion with potential for S tier, and we might find him up there in the future patches. First up in the OP rank for ADCs is Ezreal. There are so many terrifying assassins and bruisers running the Rift, and being able to do damage from range and keeping yourself safe with the Arcane Shift is incredibly valuable. Ezreal's lane is very hard to punish as he can always farm from range with his Q, and if he's not being punished then he's poking you with his Q, making it very hard for you to CS. Ezreal spikes hard after he finishes Manamune and his Sheen item of choice, taking over games with impressive consistency. Since Ezreal has access to an escape, you can play more aggressively than other immobile ADCs, which leads you to push his advantage even further. His damage output is crazy when you land all your skill shots, and if behind you can opt for an Iceborne Gauntlet, giving him a nice amount of utility. He's the most versatile marksman and one of the most powerful solo carries on the Rift. Jhin is our other OP ADC. Similar to Ezreal, he's able to damage from range with his ultimate, but instead of getting a gap closer, he comes loaded with a more upfront burst and extra utility from the root on his W. Jhin is great at supporting his teammates without being in harm's way, but he's also a potent carry when ahead, bursting down enemies who dare to step in his way. Jhin's attack speed is locked to a much lower value than most champions, but in return his attacks are very powerful, which means that you can use extra time between your attacks to reposition and avoid enemy damage. Jhin's laning phase is also the most powerful out of any ADC due to his powerful burst and all-in potential, which puts him on top of our list. Here's the rest of our tiers for ADCs. Once again, Seraphine tops another tier list. She's strong as a support for the same reasons she's strong as a mid laner, but there's a few extra points that make her especially potent in the dragon lane. Coming up, she's in a dual lane, which means every cast grants her more nodes, which empower her next basic attack. Her laning as a support is incredibly obnoxious, and her slow, root, and charm all set up her ADC very well. She's especially potent with Misfortune and Ezreal as they can combo their ultimates with hers. Between exhaust, her W movement speed and heal, and the CC from her kit, she's also extremely hard to kill, and similarly to the mid lane Seraphine, she scales into an extremely potent team fighter. She's the best at enabling her team, and she has very few punishable weaknesses, which makes her so OP. The other OP that we have for the support is Alistar. This bull has been rampaging through the Rift, and it appears to be very OP. In League of Legends, Alistar's weakest point was always his first 2 levels. These levels go extremely fast on the Wild Rift and are far less important, so his main weakness is basically avoided completely. Pulverize is one of the best abilities in the game, and Alistar will often be pumping out multiple multi-man knockups in a team fight. His ultimate Unbreakable Will also makes him extremely tanky without items. Here's the rest of our tier list for support. And that's gonna wrap up our tier list for the Wild Rift champions. Don't forget, if your favorite champion isn't a high tier champion, most champs on the Rift are fairly similar in effectiveness and you can make them work. We hope this video was helpful for all of you who are starting to look to climb the ladder in ranked, and also for anybody who just need a few extra wins to get to that next division. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to answer the question of the day in the comments down below, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more Wild Rift guides and tier lists. Again, my name is Nathan Ng. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at Nathan_ing or Twitch. I'm also streaming now. And with all that being said, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.